this one sentence that I still use, and it's like, if I'm truly loving myself right now, love is our natural bias. Everything else is learned. So it's returning back to self. Remember, confidence for dears, trust one's worth. How can we trust ourselves if we don't know ourselves? And so that was my journey of just, it was not I'm going to make this thing like the affirmations where we go from I'm not enough to I am enough. And I tried that as well, eyeballing myself in the mirror and like, you are enough. No, because internally I've built this belief, and I have evidence, 40 years of evidence that I am not enough.
Are you going through life blind? This is Eyes Wide Open with Nick Thompson. On this podcast, we share knowledge and stories that build human connection while elevating stigmatized societal issues such as mental health, holistic wellness, culture, free speech, and more, all to ensure we show up in the world with our eyes wide open. Today's guest is Elana Van Deventer. Elana is a pioneer of Dr. Carolina Leaf's groundbreaking certified Neurocycle facilitator program. She's a public speaker, author, and co-founder of the nonprofit She Unite. Thank you for coming on the show today. How are you?
Thank you, Nick. Thanks so much for having me. I feel like we've known each other. We found each other on social media, the beauty of social media. And so it's such an honor to finally do this with you and connect in this space as well.
Yes, and thank you too. I, as you mentioned, like we got connected on social media. It's been over. I know it's been over a year, if not longer now. So
yes.
I'm glad that I finally reached out and we connected a little bit about doing this. So excited to have you here and excited about your work too. I think one of the things that's so interesting to me, just kind of where we are right now with neuroscience and the light shining on mental health, and they really converge, which is it's a new kind of convergence. So I think there's just a lot to learn there. And it's good to see so many people being vocal and sharing their expertise about it.
It makes me super excited because I think for years there was just, we were all struggling in silence in a way. And I know for myself and you as well, we both struggled with depression. And for me growing up, there was this idea that emotions was something bad. And I had so many of them. I see it with my daughter as well. I always say she's got emotions and she's got backup emotions. So I love that we have open and eyes wide open conversations, and where there's less shame and guilt these days. When we voice and we say, listen, yeah, I'm struggling. And it's this, we're normalizing it. Yeah. Because we all, in one or other sense, we all struggle, but we've always suppressed it.
I think you're so right. And I think that's the beauty of one of the beauties. There's many ugly things about social media, but one of the beauties about social media is it does give you sort of these platforms to vocalize and makes people feel, well, sometimes it does make you feel kind of alone, but it also makes you feel like you're not alone in a way where you can really connect or bond or relate to something someone posts and really sort of like normalize it, right? And feel like you're not alone.
That's, yeah, absolutely. I love that you're saying that, because I feel like loneliness is probably the biggest virus that's going around, to be honest, to label it as a virus. But there's so much people feel unseen and unheard. And I feel social media, yes, it's a weapon, and it can be used both ways. It can be for the good or for bad. So it's basically what you choose to do with it. And I love that we are able to, one, connect across borders, especially for those that is lonely, that is an isolation. We are able to still connect, and on a deeper level. I love going into DMs, and I think there's so much power when we use our voices. I felt stuck for years and years and years. Someone that had a brain injury at a very young age, I always felt limited. I couldn't even speak in front of people. I couldn't even stand up. Yep, that's neuroplasticity. I couldn't even stand up in the class. I remember I had anxiety attacks just standing up in class, because I had this deeply rooted belief that I picked up at the age of 3, that I'm broken and that I'm not enough and that I'm not capable. And that led, there was so much evidence of that in my life. We will always receive evidence of what we believe as truth. And I had 40 years of evidence that I am not enough. And I love that we are standing up and we're using our voices for good.
I love that. Not that you felt you weren't enough. That's an awful thing to feel at such a young age. And we'll we'll chat about that if you're comfortable with that. But
Yes.
I love to ask people, especially my guests like you who have had such empowering ups and downs, but really turned it into something where you can speak and you are confident and you are willing to help others. But it's not always like that. So what did you want to be when you were a child? It sounds like you started struggling relatively young. So I'm wondering how that impacted you to over the years to where you are now.
Yeah. So I feel like what I'm doing now found me. And it's funny how we start serving others in the areas where we once felt disqualified and broken. And so,
So
but
true.
to get here, it was a journey. Like it was finding a purpose in every season. I almost feel like it wasn't this one. I think we out there, we get very often stuck in this thing that we have to find this one thing, and that's our purpose. And I think that's completely wrong. Our purpose is seasonal. And so
Mhm.
I ended up here, but before I was actually in school, I wanted to chase storms for a living.
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
the movie.
That's a
Uh,
first.
yeah,
Twister, right? Yeah.
yes, I want to chase storms. I feel like I do that in a one or other way right now. It just looks different. I'm chasing
You're
the mental storms.
Yeah, you're chasing human mental storms, not
Yes.
physical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
And
a first. I've never had anyone that wanted to be a storm chaser. And it's funny because I knew immediately it was because of Twister, because that movie
yeah,
is just, it makes it so glamorous looking to go chase
I
after
give my age
tornadoes.
away there as well, right? That's what I wanted to do. I remember in grade 8, my maths teacher actually told me, "You're stupid, you'll never get anywhere in life."
Your
That was
math
just,
teacher?
yes,
Wow.
that was,
Shh.
and the thing is, I already believed it about myself.
Mm,
Limited, not capable, I'm not enough. And so after that, I actually gave up on maths, but I continued with accounting because I love accounting. Labeling is really disabling. And so, but luckily I did still follow through with the accounting piece because I love the teacher. The teacher was
it's
amazing.
funny how that makes a difference, isn't it?
It does make a difference. The people that you surround yourself with will really impact how you think, feel, and choose, and also your future decisions.
Hmm.
Science affirms that. So I ended up going into accounting after school, and I loved it. I loved it.
Wow.
I did accounting,
I'm
and
always enamored by people that love accounting. I don't know why. I hate it and I don't even want to ever think about it. So like when I hear that people like it, but that's the thing, right? It's like thank God there's people who like this kind of stuff.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. But also I must. There was a gap. Okay, I finished school. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I
Mm,
actually took a year off because financially we couldn't afford to go and study at university, and
yeah.
that was very. It felt very comfortable to me as well because I'm gonna fail if I was
If
not
you go,
enough
ugh,
still. And so I ended up living in Holland and Netherlands for a year working as an au pair. And I got back and I was still a little bit like, I don't know, I'm limited. What can I do? And I ended
right.
up applying at a auditors firm, accounting firm for the PA position. And I literally got that because I pay attention to detail. That's what the
Right.
CEO told me. You're getting this job because you pay attention to detail. I ended up taking on more and more responsibilities besides just answering the call, which I think is already, for me, that was already stepping out of my comfort zone because
I was just going to ask that. What was your mental state at this time? Because that's got to be some positive reinforcement almost from the CEO.
absolutely, it was just him saying that I felt seen, but I still had evidence that I'm not capable. Like,
What
I would. go on the phone and I would say something wrong. Also, I want to say that English is not my first language. Okay, I grew up in a very small town where we only use English for self-defense.
Oh
That's
my
the only
gosh.
reason you would use it. So whenever we had to answer the phone in English, I'm like, I couldn't even stand up in class to read out of a book. Now I have to speak to people, and I'm the assistant for the CEO. But the beauty of confidence is not something that we are born with. But I always thought that's something that I just lack. I don't have confidence, and I think there's this even today, everyone is searching for confidence. Like if you use it like how to become confident, everyone will jump on that because everyone feels the lack of that in their own lives. And what I noticed when I was the assistant is that it's a muscle. You
Yeah.
you feel more confident. So now today I had a call in English and I felt a little bit more there's still that unease, but I felt a little bit, okay, I felt more confident and I felt more confidence. And when we look at the deeper root of confidence, which I was searching for really 40 years, the word is fideer, which means trust once with. I think it's something that you daily choose to live from. Now I know better, but so back then I didn't. So I don't want to. So often we judge our past selves on the knowledge we have today. So I
Hindsight's always
know,
2020.
yes,
Yep.
I know she did her best with what she knew at that time. And so I slowly but surely started building confidence. I won't say breakthrough confidence, even just the way, for me, it was being intentional about my posture. That's even a confidence builder. The way I stand, the way I walk into the room, the way I show up. Um, it's not long lasting, but it gives you confidence in the moment to actually see things through. And so I just ended up taking on more responsibilities. And eventually I was like, I want to do this. I feel like I can do this. And I ended up going to the same CEO and I told him, I want to do this bold. I want to do this. And he
Wow.
was just amazing. And he believed in me so much. He gave me an opportunity to study and get the training for as an accountant.
Wow.
So that's how I ended up there. It was a journey.
Yeah. So you just slowly over time built the confidence to pick up the phone and speak in English or stand up straight. And like these little wins almost helped you get to the point where you could go ask for a little bit more responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's so important too. And that's part of like your brain, right? Like you get these little wins. That's why I always make my bed in the morning, brush my teeth. Like I'm like mentally checking off these things just to sort of, it's like, you know, the dopamine hit, of course, from doing
Yeah.
these things, but like just slowly building myself some momentum for the day. And it makes a big difference. And sometimes, you know, we talked a little bit about dogs before we came on. Like one of the things that was such a big game changer for my mental health was getting a dog, because I would, you know, with my depression, I would have days where, you know, and I would be unable to function and I just wanted to stay in bed all day, and I would. And then those sometimes spiral into 2 days or 3 days or, you know, whatever that might look like. And getting the dog, it's like every morning I got to get up and take him
Yeah.
out, and he's counting on it and he's counting on me, and then I got to feed him, and those things kind of, you know, also just build those little wins early on in the day. And you were kind of applying that to your profession.
It's those small steps. I'm sorry, and he actually wants to get back on the couch now.
Bring
The
him
dog.
on.
Yeah.
Bring him
Jake,
on.
come, come. And he's like,
For
I don't know. He's got stage fright now. He really, you know what? I fast forward to, so we immigrated 6 years ago from South Africa.
Mhm.
And before we moved, at that stage, I was already not in the accounting. Nick, just hold on. He really,
Oh, it's fine.
it's this, or remember we said they're going to ask for attention.
Mhm.
There, we just got the attention from him, asking for it. At that stage, 6 years ago, I already, because there was a in between where I was, and I'm going to say this word, and because it was what I told myself, I'm just a mom.
Mm.
That word "just" was really what stuck with me. And for years, that was all I did. And I felt that I am not needed. I am not enough. Again, that word, because I'm just a mom. And I felt like there's a lack of purpose in that season. And that's why I'm like, every season, there's a purpose in every season. And it will look different. So I was not just a mom. In that season of raising my 2 kids, that was my purpose. And I look back now and I can
Which, by the
see,
way, responsibility for another human being is a pretty big purpose.
hello. I take proud in the pride in the fact that they're alive. They're still alive
Yeah.
today. I managed to keep
Think
them.
of how many people can't keep a plant alive, and you're keeping human beings alive. So.
Well, let me say I'm still struggling to keep a plant alive. This one I think it's fake.
I have one that has been on life support for like a year and a half now
Yeah.
out in my living room, and I'm like, I give it water. It doesn't get any worse. It doesn't get any better. It's a yucca tree, so it's like,
Yeah.
well, these things can survive in harsh conditions, but I don't know for how long.
I have one in our living room. It's Barney. He's got a name. I think the fact that I named him, I feel there's a deeper connection, and so I have to look after him. But the rest is probably not doing too well. But yeah, so in that season, there was that was my purpose, and that's why I always say it looks different. It's not a one thing. It's not this one big bang, and you have one purpose. But I didn't know that at that time. And so we immigrated, and I was in the modeling industry for a little bit as well, always searching for meaning, for what I'm called to do, that purpose, that word that we throw around very often. And so we immigrated to Canada, and we moved from a big city to the smallest, probably, I can't guarantee that, but for
One
what it
of
felt like,
the.
smallest town in Canada in the winter.
What's
Okay,
the town?
Fort Frances. So it's
Okay.
between Winnipeg and Thunder Bay. You drive through it and you didn't notice that you actually went through something. Unless you needed fuel, gas for your car, you will be aware that it's there. And we moved there, and I felt like everything was stripped away. Everything that was meaningful, or that was made me feel like someone, because of the photo shoots and the events and the cameras and the lights and the action and all the stuff, that was all gone. And we also moved in the harsh winter to Canada. Now, it was minus 50. My first
Oh.
winter in Canada, I literally cried.
Wait, what year was that? 6 years
2017.
ago? Okay. Okay.
17, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
wow.
yeah, we weren't even allowed over Christmas to go out. And
Wow.
so it was brutal. But I really,
welcome to Canada.
it's like, hey, oh, what is the saying? Like, really, welcome, hey, Canada, oh, Canada. Um, I struggled with probably was my identity. The feeling that there's nothing. I'm a nobody.
What happened to the accounting at this point?
So in between, so I became a mom, and I stepped away, and I was a full-time mom.
Okay.
So that's that gap between accounting. We were actually working in Mali and Ghana, both in Africa for a while. And so by that time we decided it's now time to just be a mom. And so I
not just though, be a
yes, not just, and that is the key word that's actually now shifted. I was not just a mom. I was doing the hard work putting in serving my children. And I see now the benefits, but while I was in it, for me,
Mm.
there was my perspective was there's no purpose in wiping someone's butt for a living.
I
That's
mean, if
how
you
I remember saying that.
how you yeah. So you were married at the time, right?
Yes.
And yeah, you're married. So what was your relationship like at that time with your spouse? Because I can imagine when, as I know, when you don't feel good about yourself, it's hard to show up in a relationship.
Yes. It was okay. So this is not a joke. I say it now as a joke, but while I was in it, it was real. I
Hmm.
planned to kill my husband.
Okay. I guess that's
Every time I say this, people are like, "Where's your husband? Why are
so
you out of
right.
jail?"
I think it's funny. I think it's funny. I love that abrasive humor, but where
Everyone's
is
like,
your
"Is he
husband?
still alive?" And I'm like, "He's here. He's here. It's fine. It's okay. He survived. I didn't end up killing him, but I felt like he's the reason why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, and why I'm where I am in the world, and why I am stuck in nobody. He's the
Right.
reason why I'm not where I thought I would be at that stage in my life." And so there was a lot of resentment. There
Mm.
was a lot of anger. There was a lot of fighting. And I literally just wanted to get rid of him. And when I say I wanted to get rid of him, it's like I wanted to get rid of him.
So what was your plan? Was it going to be slowly poison him? Or you going to, I'm just kidding.
People taking notes.
Yeah.
Hold
Yeah. I don't want to see your Google search history for,
a real how to plan to kill your husband now.
and
It's
get
such,
away with it.
yeah. And live in Vancouver years later, out of prison.
So how did you start to come out of this? I mean, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you were really down in the dumps and really struggling. And I'm so curious, like, what was the tipping point? How did you pull yourself out of this?
There was one day that okay, so realized we have two kids. I can't get rid of my husband. And the next option was to get rid of myself.
Mm,
Like when you're in it, there's just no way out. It feels like there's no way
yeah.
out. And so I remember the kids were at school, and I decided in advance that this will be the day that I'm going
Oh my
to
gosh.
live my life, because there's nothing left. And I remember still sitting, and I'm not going to cry today. I'm not going to cry today
It's okay if you do.
if I do cry. I remember sitting in the bedroom, and just before I was going to follow through with it. And there was this moment of just literally sitting against the bed on the carpet, and I was just done. Like I call it as a flatline moment where there's nothing left. And I remember just my head fell back. And the beautiful thing that came out of that surrender moment almost was I found out a study that they've done on kamikaze pilots, and the reason why they don't. And so they are so trained to keep their heads down, and that's what happens when we're going through depression. Our heads are down, and so they keep their eye on the target. Their heads are down. They're saying the same things over and over and over to themselves. And what studies indicated is that there was a moment that they looked up,
Mm.
and they didn't follow through with the mission. And they actually called it in psychology the installment of hope. And there's not a simple explanation, but there was something that just, and I can't say it was like I had hope for the rest of my life. It was like I had
A
hope for
moment.
the moment. And so I decided to simply just choose to hold on to that daily, slowly, and just slowly building myself, finding myself again, because I was like, I don't even know who I am. Who am I? And that's why I say that I lost my identity. And that's with what happens if we build our lives on an identity that is based on what we do. When that's gone, there's nothing left. And so it's so important to if you look at a tree, that's what we work on in Neurocycle. Our thoughts look like trees, tree-like structures, and so it's going to the root. And so I had to find my roots again, in a sense. But it was a simple action of daily choosing to show up for myself.
Yeah.
And slowly building that relationship with myself as well. And choosing, thinking, feeling, and choosing. There's this one sentence that I still use, and it's like, if I'm truly loving myself right now, love is our natural bias. Everything else is learned. So it's returning back to self. Remember, confidence, fideris, trust one's worth. How can we trust ourselves if we don't know ourselves? And so that was my journey of just, it was not I'm going to make this thing like the affirmations where we go from I'm not enough to I am enough. And I tried that as well, eyeballing myself in the mirror and like, you are enough. No, because internally I've built this belief, and I have evidence, 40 years of evidence that I am not enough. So that is the thing about affirmations. We can speak about affirmations as well, because that really played a big role in my life and my healing journey. So it was daily choosing an attitude, daily
And
choose.
you had years, decades of programming in your head that you were not enough. So like you have to overcome not just a feeling or an event of feeling you're not enough, but like a lifetime of programming telling you in your mind, in your heart, that you're not enough. And I've similarly struggled with that. And I actually found an artist in, when was that? 2020, when everything was in the shitter, right? I went to Detroit with, back when you could only go anywhere with 6 people, right? Social distancing, all that stuff. So we went to Detroit, and walking down the street, there was an artist who just had 15 paintings saying I am enough. And I bought one of them, and I actually have it above, not above my bed, but like when I wake up and I sit up, it's the first thing I see. And it just says, you are enough. And it is like something that I look at every morning when I wake up, and it helps me, just like that daily first reminder, right?
Yes, that, and you've seen it probably now you see it every single morning. You see it every single night, and that is the beauty of affirmations as well. I think the danger when it comes to affirmations, like I tried it all. Okay, I've tried everything that I could find to really bridge the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be. I also want to add that my journey has been a couple of years, and when I walked into the training with Dr. Caroline Leaf, I walked into that training room with my knees knocking, and I literally was bouncing, not because, yes, fear, but also I had a nitrogen coffee for the first time in my life, and I was literally bouncing in there. But I walked in there, and when I got certified, Dr. Leaf, we had a Zoom call, and she knew, because I had to put it all out there. I had to first heal myself before I could help others through their own journeys. And I walked in there with that belief still. That was my first thought, most dominant thought that I wrote down with my own healing and my own neurocycle, was like, I am not enough. That was the thought that I worked on. And so the danger that happens with affirmations, and like I said, I've tried it, and the warrior pose, that's also a thing. Tried it. I could not, did not stick. So I still tried it. The thing is, we have to, if we I explain it as you going for a workout. Okay, you haven't worked out for a year. We walk in, or 40 years, we walk into the gym, and in my case, 40 years, we walk into the gym and we saw the heaviest weight in the workout center. And we in the gym, and we think we walk towards it and we try and pick it up. If you have a belief that I am not enough, and you try to pick up a affirmation that is that heavy weight, that I am enough, it's too far-fetched. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm happy that you did it, but this is BS.
Right. It's like
Internally, you
not,
don't
yeah,
believe this.
it's too much. It's like
It's
a shock factor almost.
yes, and it adds to the guilt and shame, because if it's working for everyone else, why is it not working for me? So there must be something wrong with me. And that
Hmm.
adds to that there's something, I'm not enough because it's working for everyone else. And that's the beauty of us using our voices. No, no, no. We it's not the case when we speak about things and we honest and open and like, no, I did say it, but it didn't really work. So
Right.
instead of creating this one size fits all approach for everyone, science affirms that the way your mind activates your brain is different from every other person on the planet. There's no one like
Yes.
you. So to think that this approach is going to help me is just adding to there's something inherently wrong with me. So it
And
causes damage.
yeah, that is, that is the common threshold or baseline for people that me too, and people I talk to about, living with depression. It is that there's something wrong with me. Like that
Yes.
was the feeling I had as a kid. Mine started like probably 6 or 7, but that carried with me, and it almost became like this scapegoat to feel the way that I felt too, where I'm like, well, I'm just wired different. And I am wired different. We're all wired different, like you said, but that doesn't mean there's something wrong with me.
No.
That like, I know my empathy is a result of depression and living with that. And so there's so many good things that come with that wiring. And it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It just means you're unique and you're dealing with your own like unique set of circumstances.
Yes. And we each have a unique story. So
Hmm.
keeping that into consideration as well when we work on ourselves is so key. And that really where the breakthrough happens is when we go and see, okay, wait, what's my story? Where did I pick up these beliefs? What is the embedded memories? What is the origin story? Yeah, that actually
Hmm.
created this belief that that's been holding me back, that's held me hostage in us. A lot of us are sitting in rooms with the door open. And it's these things that are story and our trauma and things that we've gone through in our lives. We have to go there. We have to see what created it. And once we do that, we deconstruct it. And then we're actually able to reconceptualize and stabilize and grow this new belief, which is where we want to be. But we have to have grace and compassion and meet ourselves where we are at, even with affirmations. Like for me to go from I'm not enough to I am enough, like I said, that's too far fetched. So I
Yeah.
literally, my first affirmation was this: it's okay. Feel that. It feels completely different than adding something that I honestly don't believe and I don't have evidence of. There's compassion and love in that. It's
I
okay.
think
I'm figuring this out.
that's such a, I mean, who doesn't that apply to when you're struggling, right? That's a beautiful, simple starting point.
That was it for me. I just want to go back to when I was in that phase of, or in that season of healing. And I can't remember if I finished this, as operating from the place of love. And the question that I asked myself was, if I'm truly loving myself right now, I still use it. If I'm truly loving myself right now, what would I do? What would I choose? What would I think? What would I say?
That
That one line is if everything is calibrated by love, it points us to the true north. It is just
I love
it's a
that.
great guide for us. If I'm truly loving myself right now,
And I think
what?
that too, that applies to your job, your friendships, your relationships, your family, your relationship with yourself. If and that, that it's interesting because that's when I get a lot of people, it is funny and it's so genuine, but like a lot of people will DM me or ask me, um, I don't want to say some for advice, yeah, but like it's so funny because like I'm no authority on any of this. Like I'm just a normal guy who, you know, had some stuff to figure out growing up, and it took me forever to do it, but I figured a lot of it out. But it is interesting because I think like one of the things I've noticed, just kind of having a little bit of a glimpse into the outside world from my reality TV experience, is that so many people don't take that moment to check with themselves and say, is this serving me? And I
Yes.
wish, like, if there's one thing that I could tell people that was probably one of the greatest things that I've learned in therapy and just growing, is like, I don't have to do things that don't serve me to make other people happy and hurt myself. And with that has come a lot of boundaries to a lot of people in my life. But I have like peace, or at least a lot more peace than I would have. And we don't have to do things or participate in things or events or gatherings or friendships or relationships that aren't serving us. And that doesn't mean that they're not going to serve other people too, right? So, like, what's good for you or not good for you will be good for someone else and not good for someone else. So, it
Yes.
is like we have to serve ourselves if we want to keep inner peace and mental clarity and just calm, like a calm life.
Yes. If we say, so well said, I wanted to, there's not a body emoji yet, but I want with the loudspeaker, say it next, preach it. If we say yes to something, but internally it's a no, we literally give a little piece of ourselves away every time. And we actually build the structure internally that I can't trust myself. I
Yeah,
think boundaries
wow.
are, it's the way it's our perspective regarding it that needs to shift. And it's, boundaries are not to keep people out. Boundaries really create that meaningful relationships that we want. It also keeps what we need in. But
Yep.
knowing your yes and your no, so you can trust yourself instead of just saying yes. Why do we feel, that's a question that we can ask ourselves. I had to do it as well.
Mm.
Why do I feel I have to say yes? Why? What is it that I'm trying to avoid? And there's usually like a negative emotion, and then it's rooted in a thought, because thought creates emotions, actions, behavior. So what is behind it? Why? I have a list of things that I ask myself before I say yes to any commitment.
Let's hear those.
I'm going to get the list. I don't want to, I'm going to get it and read it to
No,
you.
I think that's a good thing to do. You know, I just asked myself the question, I'm like, is this something I really want to do? That's usually where I start. I'm like, is this something I really want to do? And a lot of times it's a maybe. A lot of times it's maybe I will in the moment, maybe I won't in the moment. But I think it is something people don't even know to ask themselves, and it's
Yes.
hard, right? Because we have a people pleasing mentality, and you know, especially in certain ways, people are growing up, so it makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. So I found my list, and I have it printed next to my computer. So every time
Good for you.
before I say yes to a new commitment, because I want to trust myself, is, will I be happy I said yes to this in a week?
Mm.
Am I just saying yes in the moment? Not that intentional, giving it an intentional yes, but just in the moment, which is probably an emotion, excitement.
Hmm.
It's not a bad thing. But will I be happy I said yes to this in a week? Second one is, would I be saying yes because I genuinely, this is a big one, want to help? Or would I be saying yes to avoid the guilt of saying no? So often we say yes to things because there's guilt.
Yeah, that's.
Would I be
We could
sacrificing?
just stop there. Let's let people marinate on that. Like, anyway, I'm sorry.
No,
Continue.
no, no. Do I have the time? Time and energy are limited resources. Okay, so if we don't have it and we give it away, there's nothing left. I always say that saying of you can't pour from an empty cup. I
Hmm.
really grew
I say
up with
that
that.
too.
You can only pour what's overflowing. You can only give what's overflowing. Everything that's in the cup is for you. If you don't have it, you don't have it to give. So do I have the time and the energy and the emotional capacity for this commitment? And then the last one, what would I be sacrificing? Everything we do comes at a cost. So what would I be sacrificing by saying yes? And is the sacrifice worth it?
These are very good. These are very, very good. And it's like, again, like, I don't think that in depth about it. I'm just like, is this something I really want to do? Yes or no? But like asking yourself those questions before making a commitment, I mean, it's almost like journaling, right? It like puts things into perspective and lets you touch base with how you're feeling about it now and how you're going to feel about it later.
Yes. Operating from that place of, oh, I can trust myself.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I know my yes and my no, and that's just questions to help us get there.
Which I love that. And how did you come up with that list?
I think it's something that I've collected and gathered through Dr. Leaf, to be honest. Because
I was going to ask that too. Like, how did you find and get in touch with Dr. Leaf, and what was that experience like?
So we moved to BC, so Vancouver, 2 years ago, a little bit over 2 years ago. And at that stage, I was stay-at-home mom. And being a South African, we all know of Dr. Caroline Leaf. She's like a household name in South Africa.
Okay.
But I told her this as well. I haven't read any of her books at that stage 2 years ago. I was like, I know of her. I haven't done my own Neurocycle. I don't have any information regarding it. But then one day it was very, very weird. I was not even subscribed. So the person that's doing her marketing, well done. I think I was.
I love that. Shout out to marketing professionals.
Yeah. I received this email, and it was the application. It just announced that she's going to train facilitators. And I was like, oh man, it just caught my eye. I'm like, just delete it. Why would this be in my promotions? And because
you're not good enough to do that. Yeah, that's your programming. Yeah.
Who am I? I also want to first pause before I tell the story. I love that you shared that people ask you for advice in your DMs. I also felt that I'm not qualified to do things.
Me too. Imposter syndrome.
Yes. But what I've learned is us walking through something, there's a difference between you reading something and you've walked through something. When you share, I've walked through something, there's authority that people pick up from, not a qualification. Like, we can all read a book and or study something, but have you really walked it? Have you been in the trenches? Have you experienced it where you feel it, where it's evident in everything in your life? There's something way more freeing to others as well, and to ourselves, when we start speaking from that pain, when we start speaking from our own journey. And you see it on your platform. You are doing such an amazing job where you speak about the stuff that's the messy middle. I call it the messy middle. We are all a mess. And Dr. Leaf say that we are all and it's fine. It's not a negative thing.
It's human. So it's being human.
Yes. When we say, listen, I booked my pants in during COVID because I had to homeschool my kids, and I had to be the perfect homeschool mother, and there was no time for me to even go to the washroom. So yes, when we speak about this stuff, there's like, people see that we are all just human. Right. And it's beautiful. So I just want to say, great job for being so authentic,
that's very kind
real,
of you.
and speaking up, because that's way more. People find so much freedom in that, instead of you just quoting something that you've read.
Right. That's so true.
Yeah.
Personal experiences are the most relatable thing.
Yes, it's relatable. It's so relatable. Okay, so get back to Dr. Leaf. Sorry,
Yes.
I just
No,
wanted
that's thank you.
just wanted to honor you. So yes, I got a second email a couple of days later. I'm like, whoa, again, okay, just and then I
And
ended
you
up actually
hadn't signed up for anything. So you were
no.
getting you were like on a list somewhere.
I still think my husband had something to do with it. He will never admit it unless I tie him up and say, listen, you know, now
He's
people are
worried you're
going to
going to
think
kill him. No, I'm
she's
just
like,
kidding.
just remind him of those plans that I had. But I received a second email and I just felt like there's something. And I ended up actually reading. I don't enjoy reading long emails. That's just who I am. I
Me
don't.
neither. I'm like,
I
whoa,
just,
my eyes
if
glaze
you
over.
send me a long email, I'll probably, unless it's connecting, like you telling me something happened or,
Yeah.
oh, we should do something. And unless it's that personal email, if you send me a long email, I'll probably won't read it. It will be gone.
Noted.
X-Files.
We'll
Yes.
clip that clip and you can like put that on your social media too so
Yes,
people
don't
know.
send Elana long emails. And I thought, I just felt something inside of me, intuition, like just, there was just something that was like, why don't you just apply? Why don't you just,
Mm,
I'm like, oh my soul, do you, highlight reel of why I shouldn't do it, resistance, why will I fail? I've got years of failure. Um, just all the reasons why I shouldn't do this and why I'm not qualified or the person to do this. And I ended up and became my saying. I say it to my kids, I say it to myself, you do it even if you have to do it with your eyes closed. And that's literally how I
we don't
done it.
say things like that on this podcast. We do things with our eyes open.
That's
No, I'm just
when
kidding.
there's fear. You might have to
Yeah.
change that for this one. Do it, even if you have to do it with your eyes closed. I literally completed it and I hit send with my eyes closed.
Good for
Finger
you.
on it. And that I got accepted. And then I remember I walked into that room and there's therapists and there's people that is way more qualified than me, that the person that's just the mom. And it changed my life.
Wow.
I got back home and I
When
started.
was this? Was this like a couple years ago, right?
So I've been now doing it for a year.
Okay.
So 2022.
Good for That's amazing. I love that you just did it.
You just do it. Fear will always be I grew up with this. I almost had a t-shirt, I think, at one stage, or I did have a t-shirt, fearless. Be fearless. Now, I'm turning 42. I'm still waiting to be fearless. I don't think we're not supposed to be fearless. Fear, for
No.
me, I shifted it and saw, what is fear actually? For me, fear is, I care for you.
Right.
I want to because what happens internally when we are about to step into something that's unfamiliar and we are dead scared, unless it's life-threatening, then it's also fear, is scare. I want to keep you safe. We shouldn't do this. But if it's something that you know it's not going to kill you, and fear shows up, highlight reel of why you shouldn't do it, resistance, all the reasons why this is not a good idea. It's like it's done a scan, and it's like there's just no evidence that we can survive this. How do we survive it? By stepping into it. It's like, I see you. Thank you for caring for me. But we're going to do it with our eyes, with our knees knocking. And even if we have to do it press enter with our eyes closed.
Yeah.
Now we've built that evidence. Oh, I can actually survive this. And fear is just scaring.
I can be a facilitator. I am worthy of this program.
And that I had to meet myself. You build it.
Yeah.
Like everything else, that muscle, you flex it. It's the reps. You just continue doing it over and over and over. And you don't become fearless, but you become brave. You become courageous. And you become more you feel more confidence because you feel more competent, not because it's miraculously there. It's because one, you trust yourself and you simply choose to live from your truth.
Which no one can tell you your experience and your truth isn't valid. Well, I would imagine there are some scenarios if you really want to get into it, but like that's the thing that I think is so brave about what you're sharing is that you, up until the moment you were there, were telling yourself, I'm not worthy of this. There's all these mental health professionals, all these doctors in here. Who am I? I'm just a mom, right? All those things. But here you are persevering and recognizing that that may have been your truth at the time, but there was so much more that you have to give to yourself so that you can also give to others, which is a beautiful a journey that you're on.
It was a journey of me actually going back to see where I've gathered all these beliefs about myself, and really, so day one, it was there. Day 21, so Neurocycle is 63 days. It takes 63 days for us to create automized habits. It's a journey of deconstructing.
Can you tell a little bit about that? So 360, how many days?
63.
Okay. And
Well,
for your
listen to this.
neurocycles. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
like 21 days. If we think something for 21 days, it's wired in. 21
Okay.
days. Now, we can't even go 3 seconds without thinking. And I was like, no, there's no way that I'm thinking something for 21 days. It happens. So for 21 days, if we think something is wired in, the beauty of neuroplasticity, our ability to change, our brain is malleable, our mind drives our brain, I have to say that as well, is that, it doesn't take 21 days to create a new habit, it actually takes 63 days. We have to see, we first have to deconstruct. And then we reconceptualize, and then we stabilize, and we grow a new belief. So for me I started off with that I'm not enough, I'm not capable. That was my second belief. It goes hand in hand. Because if you believe you're not enough, you're also not capable. Same thing.
Oof, so true.
So I started with that, and I ended up, I feel like, and I'm not just feeling it, it was the first thing that I finished in my whole life, because I also had a belief that I'm a quitter.
Oh my gosh.
I don't finish
Did you
things.
think about quitting?
Okay, Nick, it was brutal, and Dr. Leaf will vouch. It's nonstop training for
I bet.
almost 4 months, Sundays, Saturdays, nonstop. You're constantly showing up, constantly doing the work. I think my family, Daryl, stepped in such an incredible way. He took care of the kids so I can just focus on the studies, and then obviously the case study. And it was she made sure that we know what we're doing. But so as an accountant, I started studying. Remember when I was paying and working for studies? I didn't finish that. I remember in school, I was pretty good in long distance running, and I reached a certain level and I quit.
Wow.
This was the
And
first thing
did you
that I
just think
finished.
like with the running, that you were, I've reached the peak of what I can do. I can't do anymore. And that's when you quit.
That
So it's
upper
the
limit.
fear. It's the fear again. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So this
It's
this behind me is the first thing, and I'm not operating from that anymore. That's not my truth.
I love that.
I trust myself. I know myself. And I know that I have nothing to prove, just value to add.
Ah, that's beautiful. Good
So
for
that's
you.
what I
That's
operate
so
from.
cool. So what type of learnings, I mean, obviously we can't get into your 4 months of training here, but like what are some of the key takeaways that you've learned from being a facilitator in this program, and what do you help your I guess clients, right? Or your groups achieve?
Yeah, so it's really creating that to create that lasting, sustainable. I think there's a lot of quick fixes out there. There's a lot of things that we start, we don't finish, and then obviously just feeding into that belief that we already have. So in order to change anything in your life, you have to change your thinking, which is your mind. And that helped me to bridge the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be. And still, that still helps me. Now I'm stepping into the phase where more expansion and growth. And so now there's different things that pop up for me. And so I still use daily Neurocycle metacogs, my mind management skills that I have now to bridge that gap. So I know now how I can, when I have like a thought that pops up for me, I'm like, who told me this? Who told me this? Where's this coming from? So digging deeper into like, where's this coming from? What's the root? And then obviously able to, we call it multiple perspective advantage. Perspective is such a key thing that we need for life. Like being able to manage our mind, where first pause. I think we don't pause enough anymore. We just
society doesn't allow us to pause. That's what's so. Just on this week's episode of my podcast, I had a clinical psychologist on, and we were talking about like the pressure of productivity and the pressure of society and always being connected. Like we don't ever get to pause. And if you do, there's guilt, which is crazy.
Yes. And it's really holding us hostage. Like the world society has created a world for productivity, not for humans. We're not supposed to be on it all the time. Like rest creates more. I remember when I started off and we wanted to go on a family holiday, and I was like, I'm missing out because I stepped away. And I realized me stepping away is when I'm back, I'm able to give more because I'm operating from rest, not for it. Because rest creates more, not less.
Yeah.
So what I do for clients is I help them to bridge that gap between where they are and where they want to be, creating that lasting, sustainable, and meaningful healing, but also habits and transformation by dealing with the root. So
and
that's
again, that's like so helpful because it applies like neuroscience, right? The way the brain's wired, the way our thoughts impact our behaviors, and retraining the brain, but also using some of those practical, like, mental health tools to just sort of like ask the why. It's like a journal, right? Like the why behind things, and then using that to like retrain the brain to operate in a more effective way. Am I
yes.
effective for you as the person?
Yes.
Is that fair?
So rewiring takes deliberate daily mind management over a period of 63 days. That's how you're able to rewire. And Dr. Leaf actually used this example of you flying a plane. And that's why I think I mentioned, or I don't know if I've posted it yet, but we did it live on some questions that I've received of people asking, why are they stuck? Why do they do the journaling, they do the affirmations, they do the prayer, they do the breath work, they do the things. And she actually explained it so beautifully. She said, it's like flying a plane. If you do brain preparation, which is like breath work, which is journaling, it's like the onboarding of your trip. If you do affirmations, prayer, whatever it is, meditation, these are like landing and onboarding work. But in order to actually get anywhere, you have to fly the plane, and it's your mind that flies the plane. So Neurocycle is that we do brain preparation and we do the landing part, but we do the mind piece, which is the most important part of it all. So
and that's the rewiring, right? Essentially.
That's how we are able to apply what we've learned. Because I don't think we need more knowledge. I think we need to learn how to apply it. Because
so true.
If I could show you the amount of self-help books that I have on my bookshelf, because I need more information because I'm still stuck. I'm still not able to apply it. And really, that's why breakthrough happened in my life, is I was able to take what I've learned and apply it in a meaningful, in a sustainable, in the lasting way through my mind. I was able to manage my mind, because we've got a habit of collecting information as well. So we'll just collect. And I'm very aware of that. I always now at 42 almost, I only take in because we almost like I felt so full. Like it was just like all the information, but it was not going anywhere. I almost explain it as a sponge that's full of water, like the
Just got to
knowledge.
squeeze
It's
it.
just,
Yeah.
yes, it's just like oozing out because it's not going anywhere. So first of all, I don't read from a place of I have to fix myself anymore. I used to. If you look at all the books, I have to fix myself. So I don't read to fix myself anymore. I only take something in, like a self-help book, if I know there's an outflow, there's something that I want to use it for. So that process, it's in and it's out. Because otherwise it's just potential knowledge, and it's literally just sitting there and just like the water oozing.
And you know that's so interesting. I was just talking to someone at work the other day about like, and it's a different use case, right? But it's the same concept where people that before we make purchases now, we do so much research. We read reviews, we check prices, we look at demos, right? Depending on the product you're buying. If it's clothes, you might like, do some I don't even know what to call, but like when you can see yourself. So you do all these things, and then ultimately you get so much information sometimes, and it's conflicting, or it's overwhelming, and it can lead to like, I call it like buyer paralysis, and it's the same here. It's like you have all this information. If you don't know what to do with it, if you don't know how to like turn data into actionable insights, you're just paralyzed. Like you can't move forward. And I think maybe that's why people get stuck. Am I understanding
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we've lost our ability of deep thinking.
Well, that I know. You can just see what people say online and know that there's not a lot of critical thinking going on out there.
So we just gather. We have a habit of gathering. And so because we are aware of, we all have that awareness, like there's something missing, like I'm stuck. That's a word that I get a lot of my DMs are feeling stuck. And so we all have this awareness, and so we're reaching out to find these things. And that's why people, I don't know how strong the self-help industry is, like billions. People want a step-by-step process, but in order to actually apply it, it's going to require you to use your mind. It's going to require you to first address, because you also, even with the fitness health industry, we have a mind-body connection. And if you don't address, like I had an eating disorder at one stage as well.
Oh my gosh.
Because I'm not enough. So fix me. I remember when going to the doctor, I was like, you need to fix me, because I was not the illusion of natural beauty. But we all have this awareness. So we gather all this information and we sit with it. But we're not able to apply it, because what's in the middle is the thing that's keeping us from the life we desire or the accomplishment we're aspiring to, is us thinking we're not enough. It's us thinking I'm not capable. It's that thinking piece that we have to address in order to take, like I said, I don't need another self-help book. I need to actually learn how to apply and first address what's keeping me from getting to the other side.
Where would you recommend people start? Because I would imagine I talked to quite a few of my regular listeners to this show over DMs and stuff, and a lot of times people, they have those like lights on moments, and it is really just like, well, where do I start? Like, because even I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm like, oh my god, this is clicking in a way that, like, because I have a bunch of self-help books. I've got like 2 of them right here on my desk right now, like this. And here's me not finishing this journal I started 4 months ago about shadow work. And so it's like, I think we're like giving people a tangible way to start when they want to change their behavior, I think is also big, because it's easy. And you explained it so well. I'm going to butcher it, but like where I am, where I want to go, but like you don't, I live on the 4th floor. I don't have an elevator. when I'm there at the bottom with the dog and we just came in from outside, I know I need to get to the fourth floor. But if I don't take I think it's 57 steps,
Yeah.
I've counted before, 57 steps to get up there, I'm never going to get up there. There's just no way to do it. So how do you
Yes.
take that first step?
The first step there is obviously Dr. Lever's got the app. It's going to take you 63 steps to address that gap. It's 63 days. It's worth it. It's hard work. It's hard work to show up every day, but it's the most rewarding work because it gets you to where you want to be.
And it's little
helps.
wins. You can get little wins, right?
It's little wins, but there's something that's keeping you from getting there, and it's your thinking.
And that's
why the reason why you're standing at the bottom and you're not on the fourth floor. There's something in the middle that you have to address that will then lead to you breaching the gap.
And that's the kind of work that you and other people who are what is it? Is it neurofacilitators?
Neurocycle facilitators.
Neurocycle facilitators. I'm like,
But
I was saying this in my head, and I'm like, I'm gonna mess this up. I'm gonna mess this up.
We all, like I said, so many. Probably my tenses were not fine, and
oh, you've been
totally
fine. You've been totally fine. So
Neurocycle, the Neurocycle app is there. We are trained to help you get there on a deeper level. That's what I love, the breakthrough that I see, this aha moments when we find the origin stories and where it's been created, but also then able to take it. When we see what's going on, it's almost like we have all these open tabs in here.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we get it all out, that's why journaling is so good. It's part of the onboarding. It's brain preparation. It's good for us. It's one of the pieces. Like all these things. That's why I say we don't need more information. We know how to journal. We know how to breath work. All these things. We all have the tools. We just need the missing piece, which is our mind, to actually apply it. So Neurocycle app. Start with the app. And then if you feel like, man, I need someone to just having that accountability, someone, but also someone that is trained to help me get to the other side and really that breakthrough and the deconstruction on a deeper level, then we have all our facilitators are available to assist with that. And
that's amazing.
I love that I get to do this for a living. Like,
your story. So I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I know we've been following each other on social media for a while, but like, I had no idea. I imagine because sometimes I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like I can connect, like almost see someone and know like that person. You can see past the mask if you've lived through some of the same feelings, like depression, right? So like I never would have guessed that this journey for you has been so, I don't want long, right? It's you've been on a long journey, but just the way you've described yourself and your growth and the way you've now in the last couple of years, like you've gotten yourself to a point where your cup is overflowing and you're helping other people, and you've got the credibility, for lack of a better word, because you've lived it. And I think it's so refreshing to hear the way that you can speak about your growth, because it's like it's even inspiring me to be like, okay, I probably need to do a little more to understand like my neurocycle, because despite waking up and seeing I am enough every day, I still have these thoughts. They just creep in. They really just creep in. And I had earlier this week, I was sitting there and I'm asking myself at night, I don't even know how late it was. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm wasting my life. I'm almost 40 years old. And I'm just like, and I just go down this path of like, what am I doing? And it's like, and then I snap out of it and I'm like, here's all the things you are doing, and I have a therapist I work with every couple of weeks, and we talk about it all the time too. And from where I was a year ago to where I am now and but it's like, it just, unless you really do the proactive work instead of the reactive work, you will just, and that's what you've done. And I just think it's such an awesome story. I'm kind of blown away a little bit.
Oh,
I didn't expect, I didn't expect that to be um, such a compelling like journey for you. I really didn't. So I'm glad that you were comfortable enough
thanks.
to even share that.
Thanks, Nick. I think it's when we feel we heal, and it's then we can speak about it as well. And that's really where it becomes like a landmark. And I feel
Mm,
it's really what happened to me. Those landmines turned into landmarks where I can now speak about it, knowing it's not my identity, it's not who I am, it's part of my story, but it feels different inside of me. And I see
yeah.
the difference in the evidence of how in my life now. And
Yeah.
I had to go.
And now
And
you're helping others.
I get to do that, and I just love it. I love it. I
It's a
I
beautiful thing.
I get to do this for a living. So I'm like,
And
I get
so
to do this for a living.
I have to tie this together and then I'll give you a chance to ask me any questions. So
Yes.
when you decided to apply to this program, right? Close your eyes, hit the send button. You
Yes.
had to do that so that you could get to the point where you are going to go through your life and now help others go with their eyes wide open, right? So
Well
in
said.
the end, you did the work and now you can show up in the world authentically with all of your knowledge, all of your experience, and then how to apply it for others so that you can help other people go through their life in peace and comfort and, you know, empathy for themselves and for others. And I think it's just a wonderful thing that you're able to do. And I'm just so grateful that you shared your story today, and I have a feeling that it's going to help a lot of other people who listen as well.
Thank you so much. We all throw. I always say, throw spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks. Why not try? Just
Yeah,
try, and you will find out what sticks. And that's a beautiful guide. Try
it
it, and if
is.
it doesn't work, you try throw the next thing.
Yeah,
What do we have to lose?
usually not a lot. Usually
It's like
fear.
choose your discomfort. I feel like sitting and not stepping into it, there's so much discomfort in that.
Mm,
Which one? It's you just choosing your discomfort.
I love
Choose your
that.
discomfort.
That's a great point. So I always hand it over to you. Now I feel like whatever you ask me isn't going to be as cool as the stuff you've shared today, but
You are
I'll
so
give
cool.
you
You're
I'll
so
give you the
cool.
opportunity to ask me a question or two if you've got them.
Tell us something that we don't know about you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh man, no one's ever asked that.
I should
Let
have
me
sent you this
think.
question before.
No, I like kind of catching them almost in the moment like this because then it forces me to really think about it. I would say so. A lot of people don't know this, but some do. But like, I am a big history buff, specifically with like US history. And it's funny because this entered my mind earlier. I was actually, when I was going through school, and I was similar to you, I didn't get to finish right away. I didn't graduate till I was 25 because I had to pay to put myself through it. I had to take breaks to work to pay for more of my
Wow.
schooling and all of that stuff. But I had a history teacher in high school and he was so good the way that he would teach history, and I never liked history until then. And then I had this Professor Harkins. I remember so much of his class that I took because I had to. It was like US History 101 or whatever. And I just kept taking history classes with him because of the way that he taught. And he taught by like telling stories and not like reading a textbook and answering questions, right? And he told the real stories behind what happens in our history books. And it really, it really taught me to think a little more critically and realize that like our history isn't about a bunch of dates and a bunch of ours is about a bunch of wars, but like it's not it's
It's a
not
lot.
about it's not about what date this battle happened or naming the presidents in order. What it's really about is like the stuff that goes on behind the scenes of all of that. Like what happened to in the nation that they decided this person was the president for this moment, and the stories behind those. And I fell in love with history to the
Oh,
point where like I still have my notebooks. I keep them from these classes. And I just took history class after history class because I just liked the way he story told. So I'm a big history buff. I've got half of my bookshelf is self-help books. The other half is US history books. Right. And
that's
so
amazing.
yeah, and so it's
Love
fun because I don't really talk about it, but it keeps me very interested and involved with like news and politics and stuff like that. But it all comes from like really that
it. Sure.
history classes that made me think like, wow, there's a lot to learn from history, but it isn't about dates, it isn't about presidents or continents, or it's really about like what was the feeling in the moment, right? And that's kind of like the approach I try to take now when I look at like the bigger picture of what's going on in the world. It's like, well, what's the sentiment of the people in the moment? Because that's going to determine what wars start. That's going to determine who's the president. That's going to determine what's going on in our day-to-day life in terms of where our money's being spent for tax. So like all of that stuff, like what's happening in the moment, from a cultural perspective, is all something I learned from this professor who told
Yeah.
stories instead of reading textbook lectures, So yeah, I don't think I've never really said that publicly that
I
I'm a
love
huge
that.
history buff.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that about you.
I never talk about it.
Last question. What did you want to do when you grew up? Growing up, what is it that one thing that you can't pick storm chasers? I was worried.
It's not. No, mine's worse. Mine's worse than Storm Chaser.
You
When
wanted
I
to go
was
to space?
I had like this very like progressive like thing of where I am. And when I was a young kid, as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a WWE wrestler. And it was like my dad will tell stories about how I'm like 2 years old and I would be wanting to wrestle with him and all of this stuff. And I held on to that. And I even tried a pro wrestling camp when I was probably like 14. They beat the shit out of me. And I was like, yep, don't want to do this. It's not, it hurts. It's real. It's and so, oh my God. Oh, they beat me up so bad. I was like, and my dad's like, well, at least I've never thought about it again. And then I also wanted to be a journalist for a while. I was a journalist in high school and college. And then I had times where I wanted to be a filmmaker. I made some movies too. But ultimately, what I really realized that I liked so much about all of this was the storytelling. I'm a natural storyteller. And again, it's like I want to hear the stories behind why something happened.
That's so
And
nice.
so that's how I ended up in marketing, because it's storytelling in a way where you can, make a living where the other ways are not necessarily a given.
That's beautiful. And now this whole eyes wide open is about people's stories. Like even the
Exactly.
way you take history and it's the story behind it. That's beautiful.
It is. And that's what's so interesting to me. And when I started this show, I mean, I remember it was like I was working with a company and they were like, well, we got to figure out like your themes. And I'm like, honestly, like, I just want to talk to people. I want to talk about things that people don't get to hear people talk about every day. And I want to hear people's personal stories because that's what, I could look at so many people, and we do this, not you and me necessarily alone, but everybody in society, we do this where we project our inner view of something out to the world, even though it's an inner view. And there's stigmas around mental health, addiction, suicidal ideation, all of these things. But like, I'm sitting here and I never, like I said earlier, never would have known this was your story. And I feel like people need to have platforms to share that, because if I have a preconceived notion or a preconceived idea of something, if I don't remove that and see the humanity of the person that I'm projecting my inner view of the world on, then we're never going to come together and be a collective race of human beings. And
Yes.
that's where I think the divides all come from. Like, you know, I don't know how much you follow, but like here in this country, we are divided on everything you could possibly imagine there be divide about. And so it's like, it's politics, it's climate change, it's food, it's exercise, like everything. But like, instead of hating your neighbor for disagreeing with you or thinking something else other than the way you think, as opposed to realizing they're a human being with their own experiences, their own thought patterns, and their own upbringing that frames these things, right? Like we're all a product of our past. And until you take control of that and we remove the stigmas and we remove the projections and we see each other for what we are, we're all the same and we're all in this together. And that's why I wanted to start this show, because I wanted to talk to people that in a lot of cases I don't agree with, or learn about things I have no idea about, and just build my community here as a place for communication and collaboration and sharing stories and showing the human side of all of us, because it's just so easy to look at someone and be like, you know, that guy's a Trump supporter, that guy's a, you know, liberal, like all these things. And it isn't just that, or that person suffers from depression or anxiety. So in my head, I have an idea of what that looks like. And most of the time it doesn't really look like that. So
Yes.
yeah, that's kind of my
Well
whole
done for
thought
standing out.
process.
Well done for using voices in such an
Thank you.
impactful and powerful way. It's going to help so many people, and it's already, I see how it's helping people, and really that breakthrough happens when we use our voices and we speak truth and we say it as it is. Say it as it is. And then also just also we learn from each other. I never want to feel like I've arrived. I
love that.
always thought it's that destination addiction. Once I do this, then I will feel this.
Yep.
Not
true.
That's not true. So I always want to be a learner. I always want to learn from others. There's one thing I'm going to share that we do in Neurocycle, multiple perspective advantage. I think I mentioned it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We, when we have a perspective and we struggling to shift it, the operating from love, like you said, we should just love each other.
Mm-hmm.
If the way we speak to ourselves are always so harsh, like this, like we have so much compassion and love for others, and sometimes we struggle with that as well. We can't give what we don't have. And so multiple perspective advantage is just one thing that I use when I'm like, oh man, I don't agree with what she's saying. As MBA, what advice would you give someone else? Like, I'm you me. Like yourself in someone else's shoes. Then you distance yourself from your own emotions and your own perspective, and you actually gain a different perspective by distancing yourself. And then what advice would I give someone else? Like you distance yourself from your own ideas and perspective regarding a situation.
That's so accurate. And I know for a lot of people, I would love for them to just take a look at the things that they say to their best friend or their brother or their sister or their spouse or their coworker, and take that same, you know, I don't want to say positivity necessarily, but that same communication style, and talk to yourself that way.
Yes. Can you imagine what can happen?
Oh my gosh. I know I need to do it for myself too. So it's
daily as well. I need to manage my mind on a daily basis.
Yeah, me too. It creeps in. Those things creep in. You just gotta control it, right?
We have this ability to take control of our thoughts and our lives. We have it.
Yes, we do. And we can and we will. So
yes.
I want to thank you again. This was wonderful. This was so much, I don't want to say better than I thought, because I didn't have that kind of expectations, but like I am completely enthralled by your story. And I, again, thank you for sharing it. Thank you for sharing your work and being relatable and vulnerable. And I am very grateful for you. So where can people find you on the internet? And just so you know, we will link all of those in the show notes too.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you so much for having me and for just popping into my DMs and inviting me. And I I see you and your presence is so valuable in the space of social media and podcasting world and just social media. You're making a change.
I appreciate
I
that.
see you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm also on Instagram. Obviously, that's why we met. So on Instagram, on my website, on Dr. Leave's website as well. Yeah, just Elana Van Deventer, or like we would say the Dutch. I'm Dutch. Afrikaans is my first language. We would say Elana Van Deventer, but for the Northern Americans, I'm Elana Van Deventer. So yeah, Instagram, website, Dr. Leave's website. I'm all on those platforms.
Great. And people can reach you to work with you too, right?
Yes.
On your website.
I'm very like email or just pop into my DMs. That's
Perfect.
where I hang out using our voices. So you'll probably get a voice message from me and just connecting in DMs.
Awesome. Well, all of those links are in the description below. So thank you again for coming on. This was really wonderful.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Eyes Wide Open. If you enjoy the show, the best way to support us is by sharing or dropping a review. For more information and content, check out engagewithnick.com or find me on Instagram at nthompson513. Don't go through life blind. Do the work so you can show up in the world with your eyes wide open.